Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women, a podcast that provides a platform for women of all walks of life to share their upbringings, life lessons learned, experiences, and journeys to come. Uncommon Women speaks on topics that can relate to all women. We share, we listen, we laugh, we cry, and we empower each other to be the best uncommon woman that they can be. Ultimately, we are cultivating a global movement of women supporting women. Women supporting entrepreneurship, relationships, self-love, and so much more. We inspire each other to make an impact on this world for the better. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Uncommon Women. Now, finally, grab a seat, get comfortable, and hear from your wonderful hosts, Shanera and Jenny Lee. Good evening, kings and queens. Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I'm Shanera.
And I'm Jenny Lee.
And today we have an amazing guest speaker that's going to come on today and share her story about her being a mother of three, residing in Nashville, Tennessee, who is Amazon's #1 best-selling author and advocate for autism TN and Billin Strong, with being a co-host of a Writer's Corner Live TV and Special Needs TV Online. Today, she's going to share her testimony and also educate us as being a parent to three children, including 2 beautiful special needs children. So thank you so much, Mary, for tuning in and being a part of Uncommon Women. Before we get into today's topic, is there anything that you want to share about yourself that I didn't mention?
I don't think so. Oh, well, I ghostwrite as well. And I am now considered a songwriter. So I'm super excited about that little venture there. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And then I guess you kind of covered all of it. Yes.
So how has your journey been so far being a songwriter?
It was very exciting, actually. My co-writer author, Thornton, Cline, who we've done, I guess we have 4 books. We're getting ready to have a 5th one out. And he is a brilliant songwriter, but he and my oldest daughter and I wrote a song last summer. And then my girls recorded it this last March. And actually June 28th of this month, we're launching it on all platforms for music. And then we'll launch it on the World and Euro Indie charts. So I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun. And it's sort of like, when you're a writer, writing can come out in so many different ways. And so songwriting is almost like taking poetry and then putting it to music, So I am a poet by heart. That's what I started with. And so I'm excited about it. I can't wait. I love the song. It's based on an experience in my daughter's life. And a lot of us can relate to it. And it's a love song. So, yeah, it's sweet.
That's amazing. And does she enjoy singing? Is that one of her hobbies that she enjoys doing?
Yeah, both of my girls, they've been singing for, I don't know how many years now. We were trying to think about that because I had to write up some bios for them, but they've been singing for years now. They've got that sister harmony that's so pure, that's so beautiful. And my oldest is a music major, and both of them have been in musical theater. Like we're getting ready for show production this weekend. For 10, 11 years, I guess. So that was part of my background. So they kind of took on with the love of that. And it's been a lot of fun to be with them through that. And it's been a great outlet. I really believe for children that you should, if you can, the arts, academics, and athletics are a great triangle for raising children, because since we're creative beings, we need an outlet, something that's healthy. And it's definitely a very healthy way for somebody to express themselves. I had 2 of my kids were nonverbal. So art was a very big, big part of my middle daughter's life and being able to process through some of the things that she went through in her life.
Wow. That's so amazing. So it looks like we'll be bringing the whole family on next time.
Well, we are the Jackson 5, so
on the Jackson 5.
The Jackson 5 plus 1 with the dog if we bring the dog.
The dog. Okay. The harmony on the dog. Gotcha.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
I love it. I love it. So let's dive into that, because you said that they are basically following your footsteps maybe when you were younger. Can you tell us a little bit about your life and how it was growing up?
Well, I come from my parents divorced when I was about 10, 11. So there's that broken home, situation. My father left and he went to work, and work was his life. And so I, like a lot of other people out there, had those abandonment issues growing up, right?
Yeah.
And so it's pretty tough. And, I think the toughest part is being a human walking around this world and knowing there's a parent out there that doesn't want you. So I think for kids, that's an identity crisis that we suffer very early in life.
Yes.
And then unless you go through therapy and you get the help that you need, that goes into your adult life. And, then you are doing things in your life motivated by something that's not very healthy, And so, but growing up, I was a dancer from about the age of 3 on. And so like my first job, I danced at Disney World and then some other theme parks. And I actually was at a tourist attraction in Orlando when I met my husband. And so he doesn't do any of this stuff. So, but he's the more of the corporate person, and the family. And, but I worked at Disney, and then a place called Boardwalk and Baseball, which is now it's a place for a professional baseball team is there. They have their practices and things there. I don't know. It's been a long time, so I don't know what it's used for at this point. But then I went to Church Street Station, which was one of the funnest jobs I ever had in my life. I worked out at the Universal Studios and some of the studios in Orlando, and I did film and TV commercials, and that was what I wanted to do with my life. And it was just, I guess it was a way for me to be creative. I found myself there, and I think when you have a background where you come from, you have brokenness in your life and you have abandonment, I think a lot of people go into that field looking for something to fill
the void.
Whatever. Yeah, fill that void. But you don't really realize that that's what you're doing, And so I thought if I could sing and dance every day of my life, I'd be the happiest little cookie on the planet, right? But life doesn't always work out like you want, and it doesn't always go the way you want. Sometimes the universe says, well, we've got other plans for you. So you're not going to be doing that right now. So anyways, but so that was my life growing up. I have 2 younger brothers, and I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I graduated in 85. So it's a great year for music and everything else. Right. Mm-hmm. And growing up this way is so different than our kids are growing up today. Yes. And I think about the freedom that I had and all the independence I had and all the things I did. I would just, if my kids were out there like I was, I'd probably be in a closet screaming, right? Because the world is not as safe as it was, back then. We could go out and be out till after dark, and we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have beepers or whatever, technology that has been around to be able to contact our kids. I mean, you guys are probably like me. If you don't know where your kid is, it's like the world's over, We need a tracking device on our kids.
They're like, why are you panicking? And it's like, you don't understand what's going on in this world. Like, I don't know what's going where you're at.
I haven't heard from you in an hour. Where are you? No, I'm kidding. No, not that bad.
Yeah. It depends on if it's dark or not.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, and if you have girls, I think raising girls is it's really hard. It's hard. And yeah. And, I don't know about y'all, but I mean, I'm like, I've got one in college, one getting ready to go to college. And it's like, okay, when you go get gas, you don't look at anybody. You don't talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. You have your phone up here like you're busy. And the only person you talk to is the attendant if you have an emergency. Otherwise, you don't talk to people. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it's so sad we have to teach our kids that stuff.
Yeah. Because I have an 18-year-old and she's in college. And even when she went to the mall and I was in the mall with her and she would just want to walk away quickly. Like, oh, I'm going to go to the store. And I panic because she's a young girl, and especially a lot of human trafficking also happens in the mall because I've heard so many stories about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, make sure you keep your phone on me. Make sure you let me know when you're at. Make sure you let me. She's like, Mom, I'm only going to the store across the way. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Happen. I mean, we didn't live in that world when we were young. We, like you said, we were out to after dark sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember being in the mall without my mother. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Or dropping us off and then coming back to pick us up or whatever. I remember being at the skating rink without my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being lots of places without my mom and just being, I just don't know that I could do that these days, the way things are. And I hate that we have to be parents like that. I really do. Because my friends who have like given their kids total like freedom and stuff, it hasn't worked out so well. In some instances, it just because I think there's just so many variables that have been, there's too many things that are going on. So
yeah, too many things. I can definitely agree with that with you on that. Mm-hmm.
And I think honestly, it's a possibility that it's been going on for some time. It's just now that we have social media and it's more out there for us to actually see it.
But there's accessibility to kids that there never was before.
That's true.
And our kids having accessibility to things they never did before, so that they're seeing things before their brain is ready to process.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm like, I know. I like try to tell my daughter, I'm like, you don't understand that some of the games that are out there, you guys just you're not ready for it. Your head, your brain is not ready for it. We watched the Roadrunner, right? And Bugs Bunny and fall off the cliff, drop the bomb, get back up, keep going. But none of us tried to do that because we knew it wasn't real.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. And that's the thing. They don't know how to distinguish between reality and entertainment. That made a good point with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into, you have 3 girls, is it? You have
No. I have 2 girls and then I have a macho man. He's 9. So he was my surprise baby. I was 44 and then I turned 45 and it was like, excuse me? Okay. Nobody asked me. I did not get a memo and I did not get word check yes or no. You want to participate in this? So that did not happen for me. So it was like, hey, you're pregnant. You look bored, need a baby. So, that's what happened.
Oh, wow.
He was your surprise baby.
He's big surprise. Like, oh, my stepfather's like, you need to name him Startle. I was like, no, I don't think that's going to work very well. Yeah. But yeah, so, and he's my rainbow baby because I had lost a baby 2 years before, but he was not planned. And he's been one of the greatest gifts that I could have ever, I don't know that I could have dreamed it even, he's like, I say he's the puzzle piece. He is autistic, but he's the puzzle piece that puts our family together. He really is. He's just amazing. And I just need more energy to be able to raise him at my age,
So let's get into that. Can you tell us the day-to-day life of being a mother and having to raise an autistic child at the age of 44?
Yeah. Well, 54 actually.
54
so yeah. So, but I'd love to be 44 again. I'm thinking of all the things I could do if I could go back. Right. Well, it's a very interesting life. It is like today we had OT therapy yesterday. We had speech therapy because he's still in therapies that happen twice a week. If he's in school, they happen 4 times a week. But it's a lot of juggling. And I think that I've been doing this 22 years now, and I've been a special needs mom for 18 years. Okay. And with my first daughter that was, diagnosed, first of all, my oldest came in, she did everything normal. Like she hit every milestone. Mm-hmm. And I had a daycare. I'd raised my brothers. I thought I knew a lot about being a parent or raising kids and taking care of them. Well, I didn't know anything. So all that training did not prepare me for my life. You'd think it would have, but, and then she showed, like about 2.5 or 3, my oldest, texture sensitivity. She did things like only wear certain colors and didn't want anybody to touch her. But I didn't, the pediatrician was like, she's fine. So I went along with that. And besides, she met all her milestones. Then my second child came around 3 years later, or 2.5 years later, and she was quiet. And, she didn't crawl at first. She rolled, she didn't hit all those milestones. She was late walker. And then when she started talking, her talking was, I mean, it was not English. It was like we thought it was cute and thought she's a little fairy, And, so she was about 2.5 when what's called early intervention services came through and tested all the children, and they let me know she was very behind and delayed, and there were quite a few diagnoses for her. And at first I was like, well, they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, I really was like that because I didn't know enough at that point. I mean, my mother is one of my heroes. She worked in what was called the handicap department. That was back in the 70s and 80s in college. And there was always somebody at my house who was in a wheelchair, on crutches, maybe cerebral palsy. I mean, I grew up around this, right? But I had not grown up and was not familiar with autism and any kind of a challenge or a special need in a child in the form that my children had. So Lily was probably 4 before I heard her say, I love you, before she could say it. Yeah. When she did, I really cried because it was like, wow, we just really take things for granted in this world, don't we? We really do. When you've got typical going on, there's so much we take for granted. Yeah. And, so therapy started with her when she was 3, or before she was 3. And so that was a whole new world for me. And people coming into my home, working with my child every day, trying to learn how to teach her how to speak her own language. I mean, we had to start with two word sentences, like I don't know if you've ever seen it, but what they use is a board that says first on this side and then on this side. So first we do this, then we do this. And that's how you began speaking a language with a child. Or, English if they have challenges. And so that was just it took over my life basically, and there were lots of meetings, lots of therapies, and it took a lot to get used to. And then when she went into before elementary, we become an advocate as soon as we're pregnant, right? Because then we have to advocate for our bodies, the fetus that's inside of us. We have to advocate for that. Then when the baby's born, then we're advocating differently. We have to learn how to understand they need a diaper change, or they're going to the bathroom, or they need a bottle, or nursing, or bedtime, or whatever it is, rocking, comfort. And so I then had to change and become a different kind of advocate, having to learn what her diagnosis actually meant. And so I felt very lonely. I felt very naive to the information that was given to me because I had not heard any of these things before. So I had to go do my own research. And I will tell you, that was the most empowering thing I ever did for myself. And I always tell parents, research, because you go from a victim to a victor. You empower yourself and you empower your kid, because what I have seen with my own children, what they've overcome, they're miracles as far as I'm concerned. And watching a child overcome because they have the ability to, all children do, even if it's a tiny something they overcome, they're very brilliant, And so I'm a big advocate for early intervention services, because the younger you get a child that has challenges, the better off the more likely they are to overcome them, So when she was in pre-kindergarten, it was a pretty traumatic experience that not only she went through, and then the years following, our whole family went through. But she was abused for about 8 months in her classroom by her teacher. And she was 4 and then turned 5 during that time. And I think this is one of the questions that you had for me. She was not ever able to tell me what was going on because she was still in a place where she couldn't really answer questions. And so, like, she was fully potty trained, and near the end of that school year, she started having accidents at school. And so they were getting upset with her about this. But I didn't know what was happening until we came home from break that year. It was March, April, and I got call on the phone. We got a phone call from the police department letting us know what had gone on with our child for 8 months. And that's still hard for me to talk about. That's pretty devastating to you don't know because your child can't tell you.
Yeah.
Even though they're acting a little different, but you don't know if it's like they're resisting being away from you. They're having that resistance and fear. And they're clingy because you know how kids go in and out of their moods when they're little, And so we were informed of what had gone on, and that there was an investigation going on, and child services had to come to my home and interview my child, and she would not say anything out loud. She would only whisper in the officer's ear so that we couldn't even hear. And that's pretty hard. And so immediately we started to go to therapy, and we ended up in a lawsuit with about 6 other families over what happened.
Wow.
So that in itself is, well, there's really no words to describe that kind of journey, because it's hard and it's lonely. It's lonely because you can't talk to people about it. And the only person who could understand is somebody else whose kid has gone through something like that. And, it took her probably 6-8 months of going to therapy every week before she could even say the teacher's name out loud in the therapy session.
Wow.
So that's pretty terrible, and what they prepare you for your child's life to be after things like that happen. I don't know. I don't know how families get through it. I do know that God has been my source of strength through everything in my life. I do know that when my youngest was born, he came at a time after everything. Like, I was pregnant and he had stopped growing. I mean, this is a true story, y'all. I was pregnant. He had stopped growing in utero. I was told to go to bed to hopefully that he would survive. And that's when our case came to court. And I needed to be on the stand to defend my daughter. That was tough because I was praying for her and I was praying for God to save my baby so that I could get through that for my daughter, because I was fighting for her. I went into trying to change law in our state to protect kids. So my advocacy journey took such a different turn than maybe someone else's might, because I ended up trying to find law to change it, to make it a better place for our kids, safe place for our children, and various other things, of course. But my youngest was a healer for me, because after everything happened in the end and how things went down in the court system, I lost faith. I've had a relationship with God my whole life, and I lost everything that way. My faith in man, my faith in the justice system, my faith in God. And how could you let this happen to my child? I mean, what mother wouldn't feel that way, that now my child's been damaged at the hands of another human? I mean, how do you ever be okay about that? And then when my little guy was born, there was no time for me to grieve. There was no time for me to mourn. So I had to get my boots on, pull my big girl panties up, right, as we say, and I had to keep going. And through that, I don't know, my faith is stronger now than it's ever been in my life. So, but, I mean, something like that'll either kill you or you'll be stronger from it. So.
Yeah. So before you got that phone call from the
police department,
yeah, police department, at any time how did they find out? Was it through another family, or they're already investigating someone in the daycare?
Right. Yeah. No, this was a public school. It's not even a daycare. This is a public school. Yeah, this was elementary school. Yeah. Wow. That's why you're like, how did this happen? Right. I mean, that's the question, right? So 2 aides had written up letters and sent them in. It was kind of like one of those perfect storms. And at the same time they did that, there was an event at the school and a parent saw something happen and reported it. And that's how everything came about. So they had taken her out of the school before the school didn't even inform us. The police department did. That's pretty crappy.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I called the school to say what the bleep is going on, because I'm sure I used a few choice words, right?
Yeah.
It was like, well, we don't know, more than we do. And we've got a new teacher in the classroom, so we're moving on. And I just was like, I'm sure I said, you have to bleep, 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 be kidding me.
Right.
I'm not sure. I may not have been audible what I said at that point. Right. I don't remember. It's a long time ago. So, but I mean, that was 2008. So 2009 is a long time ago. And I don't know. It's really hard to fathom. I mean, I sat in court and watched people testify, not knowing the difference between neglect and abuse. And how do you not know? And how are you not trained on this to know it? But even for the sake, if you have a student who it's happening at home to them, right? Because that's the majority of where abuse happens is at home, right? Yeah. It doesn't. We don't expect to see it in a school, you know. So,
And as someone that's worked with special needs kids through the school system, we're supposed to be a mandated reporter. Like any little thing, it's just like, you mentioned that, they called you and they're like, oh, well, we just fired them and they left. That's not how it goes. You should, even if working in the public school system, there has to be more to be done. It's not just firing someone. Somebody needs to pay for what they did, because when they do things like this, a child gets trauma. There's a lot of trauma behind it. The kid has, child, as someone has been sexually abused, myself, as a child, we go through it. We have therapy, the family's affected, everything around you is affected, and
your whole life changes. And as a parent, you can't parent the same way. You don't parent the same way, and you lose your trust in life. And is my kid safe? Is my kid safe? I mean, there's PTSD that happens. There's so much that happens. I mean, when we're sitting here talking about this, I think back and I don't relive all this stuff, and I have not written about it yet. At some point I will, but sitting here, I'm like, how the hell am I sitting here right now? And we're laughing before the show, but it's because I think we learn to compartmentalize things in our lives, and we have to put them in a section in our brain so we can then be able to function with our life, But my understanding, when a child is young, very young, like she was, the trauma gets stuck in the brain. And there are some unconventional, if you want to call it, therapies out there. That there's also EMDR, that that rapid eye movement therapy that will help shift. And we use that at one point to help shift trauma from one part of the brain to the other, so that a person can deal with it, because the brain does that to keep us safe. It buries those things. But I mean, I was told that by a neuroparapsychologist, I can't remember all his title, but it was that, children who are abused like that at a young age and suffer trauma, they are more likely to have heart disease, emotional, mental issues, and die young. And well, what parent wants to hear that? So to say that, our whole life changed in so many ways. I mean, I had a child who I couldn't be in another room without her for years, y'all, years. I mean, I imagine being the mother of a child who you can't be out of their sight, and getting them to school every day is kind of a nightmare, Yeah. So, I mean, and like I said, I don't always think about these things, and I don't talk about this a whole lot. So sitting here, it's like, I mean, it had to be God that got us through. I don't know how else you would do it as a parent. And you go forward, you move forward, and you go, okay, this is what we have to do right now. We have to keep going. We can't stop. So I never changed our life for what happened. I made her do things that were normal, if you want to say. Ballet, dance, gymnastics, softball, music, whatever fed her and nourished her heart, her being, that she would feel safe in and feel empowered. That's what I did for her. and my oldest, because it affected all of us. Because, there was a period of time, say we went out to eat, and that was hard. But it went all through elementary. I mean, it didn't just stop there. You know what I mean? I remember 5th grade.
Wow.
The first couple of weeks of 5th grade, she went and then she wouldn't go. I mean, literally, it was bad. And I remember the principal calling me and go, okay, what's up? And I don't know what to tell you. Something happened at school that really set her off, and she's afraid to be there now. I said, so you need to help me with this, because this is much your responsibility as it is mine to get her in there, right? If this is where we choose to put her. And so it took about another week, and they were very good with me about it. I mean, I had been on the PTO in this school for like 10 years. So, a total of 10 years. So I had that relationship there, which was good. And part of the reason being on PTO was that I was in school. I was there. She could see me. So some of that was by design, and some of that was just the nature of where I was in my life and who I am as a person, and it just the way God took me down that path. And I praise those years as in PTO, because it trained me in life, the organization, the working with others, the combination of being able to get along and make things be successful, and all the money you raise for school. And we were a Title I school, so we did have to work at raising money, because we had families who could not, couldn't do all the fundraising, because schools do so much fundraising. Oh my gosh, you sell everything. And but even in 5th grade, there were struggles for her to be there. So I took her out of the public and put her in private, where we had ended up putting her sister, and that's where she felt safe. Wow. And then started to see some things start to change and go in a better way. And I mean, if you met her today, you'd have no idea that anything ever happened, because there has been so much work done. And what people out there who don't have special needs kids, what they don't know is how much sacrifice goes into, it's the whole family's vested in raising children. You got to have help from your family. You need support, even neighbors, relatives, and you have to, I couldn't discipline, old school discipline, right? Like we learned from our parents. Right. You can't do that anymore. Right. No. So there was no more timeouts. I had to relearn a whole different way of parenting for my own children. And I think, it's worked really well, but it is more, and it's funny. I saw something on a parenting email that came in, and it was like, is it called calm parenting? I guess that's the name they give it now. So somebody's come up with a name for it, but it is a whole lot more of, we have to stay calm. But it's a whole lot more of talking to that child, not at them, but to them about what's happening. So part of like what I teach and write about and really want this to grow is teaching kids how to self-regulate their emotions and help them understand. I mean, my guy is 9 today at OT, for instance, because a lot of children on the spectrum don't have really great social emotional skills. They don't have great cues for social stuff, right? And so they spend time, his therapist does, teaching him about his body parts and like in the sense of where the emotions sit and what he's feeling. So when you're sad, how do your eyes feel? How does your nose feel? How do your ears feel? Your tummy? So that he can associate that and understand, oh, okay, so I have butterflies in my stomach right now. So I may be nervous or I may be excited, but he can tell me. Right. Which is amazing. I think totally amazing. And I think that we're missing this. Like Laura and I were talking about this today. Why isn't this being taught in schools to all kids? Why isn't it being taught? Because I believe it would cut down on bullying. I really believe it would cut down, I
agree. And I think that it also gives them more of a connection with their emotions, because some children don't know how to express themselves. So like when they're going through something, they're angry, but they don't know how to express that they're angry. So they act out.
Right. Yep. How many of us adults don't know? Like, I don't know. I'm just feeling off today. Yeah. I'm just feeling off today. I mean, once a month, we all feel that for girls, right? We're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. That is so true. So how can family and friends help when it comes to supporting a parent that has a special needs child?
Well, then, That's a really great question because it's so important to feel supported because, there's a higher divorce rate, obviously, in families with children with challenges and disabilities. The stress level is a whole lot higher. But a family and friends can help by understanding, learning to know what that child has, what's going on. And don't argue with the parent and say that child's fine. If the child's been given a diagnosis, then you need to trust that diagnosis and you need to trust the parent as well. A lot of people don't go and get diagnosis because they're surrounded in a family by that are saying to them, there's nothing wrong with that kid. That kid's fine. They don't want a label on their child.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't give you a diagnosis, then you don't get your prescription to get better. It's the same exact thing.
That's
very true. That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. Because, as you can't just sit there and say that everything's okay when this kid, there's like symptoms and they're showing signs that, okay, something is not right.
Right.
And I think people tend to do that, like, once again, like you said, because they don't want that label. But if you don't never get the help with them, because I've seen from experience working with special needs and when I was working through the school district here where I live at, I had a child where they didn't start getting any help. So it was really challenging because I was the one I had to teach them, they're teaching me what I need to teach him. And it was hard. I think the first couple months were so hard. And then the progress started coming. And I just when they brought him into school, he had no type of we didn't know anything about the child. Like, he was diagnosed, but there was no services given to the child. So we didn't even know where to start. And I'm just like, okay, so what am I to do? I get it. No one wants to label the child, but your child's diagnosed with something and you didn't get the early help. Now it's going to be 2 times harder. A child can accomplish anything or are capable of doing everything, but it's just like you have to put in that extra work, and it could be overwhelming too. So I guess that's probably why a lot of families don't.
They sweep it under the rug.
Exactly, they sweep it under the rug. Thank you. And they're just in denial of that because it's just work. Not too many people can handle that.
Yeah, they don't want to be bothered. I'm trying to think. I was in a conversation. I had my show on Tuesday. The author that we had on wrote a book about PTSD and mental health, and he's gone into companies and stuff, and he talks to them about how to help their employees who are going through mental health issues or PTSD. And one of the statements was that they had said something about an employee that, we just leave him alone and he'll be okay until there's a problem. And it's like, that's how, what family, there's something about accommodating a child and then encouraging and aiding the behavior to continue. Because sometimes the behavior is actually the way a child communicates with you because they can't tell you what's happening. So you think it's bad behavior, and really what they're saying is, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm oversensory right now. Like, there's way too much sensory going on for me. So I need you to help me get out. And all I can do is scream because I can't tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
And so, these kids who get in trouble in school, a lot of times it's really their communication form.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't know how to express themselves. I definitely agree.
Right.
Yeah, I do, because they could be so many things going on at home, and they don't know. They're not. I think it also starts with the parents. Like, if you have to communicate with your child, and if you're not communicating with them, they can't express to you, and then you're frustrated and upset because your child isn't speaking to you or telling you what's going on.
Or they may be afraid to, I mean, think about it. Our kids emulate everything in our environment, right? They pick up every cue from us. And if they feel that we don't love them, or we think they're broken, or something is wrong with them, that's what they begin to believe about themselves. And so then they take that further in, and they're growing up. So when a child doesn't feel good about themselves, we know what happens. We all have, everybody's had self-esteem issues at some point, right? A lot of us still do. A lot of us don't realize they're even there still, because we've learned to compensate or whatever. But for kids who have that underlying message from their parents, how are they ever going to be able to process how they feel and know what their truth is? Or have that trust with their parents, that I am loved. Every human wants to be loved, and every human wants to be heard. Those are like two qualifications that humans really want.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up a great point about children not being able to express themselves. Sometimes they don't know that the parents and teachers want to help you. We just need to know what the problem is. Like, for example, my son, he was eloping from the schools, and I was getting frustrated. Like, why are you running out of the school buildings? What's going on?
Wow.
What is the underlying issue? And I mean, through months of trying to figure it out and actually getting him to a different school that actually cared to get down to the problem, because the school that he was in the first time labeled him as a troubled child instead of trying to figure out what the problem is. I got an advocate, and make a long story short, he was dyslexic and he was running out of the schools because he didn't want to read in front of the classroom. And it's just like something so small could have been avoided and fixed with someone taking the time to try to figure out what the problem is. And I feel as though a lot of children don't know how to express themselves. So they react instead of trying to. Children have so much going on, they don't know how to communicate the right way.
Yeah. Well, they don't. And if we just stop and ask them, like with my little guy, when he's like, I mean, he gets very hyper, right? And because his brain works so fast, and I'm like, okay, whoa, buddy, what, what's happening right now? I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I'm like, okay, so then we can talk about it. So we put a name to it. We're taming that emotion, and then we're having a conversation about it instead of like, if a child is throwing things, if they're like, when he was little, when he got bored or tired of something, he just started chucking stuff across the room. I mean, we're lucky that cabinets weren't broken and windows weren't broken. It was hard. I mean, after his shots at 2 years, he was a totally different child from then on. I mean, screaming, the aggression, that it was just awful, beside the other stuff that we were already dealing with. But now if something's going on, like if he's grumpy or angry, it's just like I sit down, okay, buddy, what's happening right now? Let's talk about this. And then a child doesn't get in trouble so much. They don't have to go to timeout all the time, or parents spank, they don't have to resort to those kind of things. They could just talking is so much easier, but then it teaches the child how to process how they feel.
Yeah.
And it's free. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, right? It's your time. That's it.
Yeah. So can you give us some tips to help parents that, are overwhelmed with having children that are special needs? Because I know you've been through a lot and it can be overwhelming. Can you give us some tips to the parents out there?
Sure. I mean, I think we need to go back to what Jenny Lee was talking about, where one of the things is to find your tribe, find those people in your life that support you and will support you, because moms need a break, whether you're raising typical kids or non-typical. You've got to have a break from it. And you have to make sure you're pampering yourself. I say pampering, but self-care is a better word, just as much as the care you're giving for your children, because you have to refill. You got to put that gasoline back in your system. I think also researching, understanding, and knowing what's happening with your child, that empowers you and takes more stress off of your situation. And look for resources in where I live. There's so many organizations that have resources that help, and look on Facebook groups too. I know that sounds cheesy, but there's a Facebook group out there for everything. And you can go there you may need to rant. You may need to go, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and you have this whole thing you've ranted about, but it's safe to do in there, and you need to get that out. But and then you may need a day where somebody might say to you, listen, I'm sending you a big hug. Hey, let's meet up for a play date and let our kids play together. So I think all of those things are really, really, really important, and supporting a mom and dad, grandparents, whoever's helping raise the child.
Yeah, I agree. Because, sometimes people will be like, oh, you're super mommy, you're super daddy. But in reality, it's a lot. It's a lot. You have to deal with, your personal life, being a mother, being, making sure they go to school, protecting them, and, through especially if there's circumstances like your daughter has been through. You have to do so much, and it can be overwhelming, especially with those that don't really have the support.
Right. And don't ever apologize for what your family is and what your kid is, what you have going on. I mean, unless you have a super destructive child who's hurting other people, of course, then, but I mean, you know, when you go out places, I mean, I believe it or not, I have had a mother, what was it? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, not want her child playing with my son because of his diagnosis. And I thought, you have to be freaking kidding me.
Wow.
I mean, he's as normal as any kid out there, because all kids at that age all do weird stuff, right? I mean, all of them do, right? You eat their boogers, they, you know, I mean, you know what I mean? They suck their toes. I mean, they do all kinds of weird stuff, right? So, I mean, so
I'm normal and I did some of that stupid, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, everyone does it. We've done it.
I know.
Right. Yeah, we turned out, I think, okay, right? But I mean, you know, it's just, I was just really shocked at that. And I thought, you know what, there was a period of time there that, you know, because we'd been through so much trauma with my middle daughter, I didn't talk about things very much, and I didn't talk about them publicly. And now it's like, yeah, you know what? My kid goes to a school that allows all children in, and they're really good at taking care of his needs. So I talk about that school to people, and I am very grateful for this school. I mean, we did this thing, I don't know, 4 years ago or whatever, and I called the news, and the news station came in because we did a special day just for autism kids. You know, it's on April 2nd, but you know, we did the red carpet, and they made it super special. So the whole school celebrated all the kids with autism in the school. And so, you know, I just think that we should never have to apologize. When my little guy was young, and he was one of those that if you came near him, he screamed. I mean, and it was like somebody killed someone, blood curdling screams. It wasn't just like, you know. So it was like I didn't go out a lot. I wasn't around people very much because that was a very awkward thing to have to deal with. And a friend of mine said to me recently, she's been a teacher with my older girls for a long time. She said, yeah, I remember when he was little. And she said, I remember how people acted with you at the school when you would come see the girls and he was in the stroller, and then he would be screaming, and they'd be like, why can't you get him under control? No. That's not what it's about. It has nothing to do with my kid being out of control. This is what autism, this is what spectrum, this is what challenging and disabilities are about. And so, you know, I just say, don't apologize for it. I mean, unless it's a really bad situation. Now, when you're in a restaurant and your child does it, blood curdling screams, and like the whole restaurant is looking at you, which we had that experience. And my girls look at me and go, Mom, what do we do right now? I said, do not look at anyone. Keep your face down and eat your food, and do not look at anybody. Okay. We will leave the restaurant when we're done eating and he's calm now, but don't make eye contact, because, you know, somebody might have said something ugly or hateful. I don't know. But, you know, we just, our life is what it is, and our kids are what they are. And when you have a kid with challenges, you're probably doing the best you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't feed into it. I love that. Don't entertain.
And you know what? No. And you know what? There's a word out there, compassion. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Just because like what I've learned, you know, working with special needs kids, you know, a lot of kids don't understand. A lot of people don't understand. But I think sometimes instead of just like looking over or assuming or judging, take the time to understand. Take the time to be like, you know, even if instead of just staring, ask if you need help. You know, we have to help one another because like it takes a tribe, it takes a village to raise kids, whether they're special needs or not. You know, okay, maybe you're having a hard time and you're trying to go out to eat with your family, and he starts screaming like that. Okay, well, what can I do to help? But no, people just start staring and just so rude about it.
And people are ignorant. People are really ignorant. People don't take the time to just think before they say things as adults. And it's just like, if you don't understand something, ask or educate yourself at times.
Exactly.
I just think a lot of people are just very ignorant when it comes to certain things, especially out in public, you know?
Yes.
And, people with children that have need now, I mean, if your kid, continue to scream, you need to take them out of the restaurant. I'm not saying just let them sit there and do that, because they also have to learn that behavior is not okay, but you also, we also, people with kids, the challenges, we want to go out. We want our kids to have a normal experience, or because they got to get used to that. They got to get used to, okay, this is what we do. It's like driving a car in America. If you have a challenge or not, you can't drive on the left.
Don't want you to be great today. That's all that is. You are educating us and telling it how it is, and the enemy is just like not.
I'm like, get on out of here, get on out of here, you gremlins, go in the name of Jesus, get out.
We're not finished talking. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even know where we're at. You were talking about driving.
Just, they have to learn too, but we want to go out in public and teach our children, and, we want to have a normal experience and let them have those experiences in life. It's like all people, we want to have experiences in life, see the fireworks, or what is just really hard for a child with sensory. So, we've always been in a way distance for the fireworks forever. But just concerts and movies and whatever you can, anyways, we want to go out there in public as well. So it's appreciated for people to not, look at you like you're weird. And just because a child has a diagnosis, don't treat them like something's wrong with them. Like I've never treated my kids like there's something wrong with them. I mean, my little guy is 9, and he didn't even realize until this year that he even had anything, that he was any different, because I've never treated him that, even though, he doesn't know that all kids don't go to speech and OT. He didn't know that, because that's what he's done his whole life. He's been in that since he was 18 months old. But I've never said, hey, you're different, or you're weird, or or you can't do that, because I've never ever said that to him. And so that's another thing as a parent. Don't stop your child from doing something that they want to try unless it's going to injure them. They need to try things. My little guy was one of those, when we went to the playground when he was little, he would walk around and touch everything, but he would never get on anything. So people would stare at us like, what is wrong with him, right? And I would act like it was totally normal. Totally normal. This is cool. My kid's touching something. He may not be sliding down and doing all the things that your kid's doing, but he's here and he wants to be here. And what a great thing this is. So that was always my attitude.
I love that. I love how you let him be free and let him be him, and you don't label.
I didn't make it wrong. I didn't make it wrong. Like, come on, what's wrong with you? Why don't you get on this? Why are you just touch things? Why are you so weird? No. Those, I never, ever said those things, ever.
And that's good. And I'm sure when he's ready, when he goes to the park, he would get on.
He did eventually.
See?
Yes. Yeah.
When he trusted it when it was his time, not our time.
Right. Absolutely. It's all on their time. Like, he still doesn't ride a bicycle yet. That's okay. This summer, that's what we're going to conquer. Last summer, we conquered swimming. I'll tell them, okay, we're conquering this summer. This is what we're doing. Okay, you're going to do this. Because I want to pour that into him, that belief system, so that, hey, if mommy believes in me, because he's not old enough yet to believe in himself 100%. So if mommy believes in me and daddy does, and everyone's encouraging me, I must be able to do this, right? Some of that reverse psychology stuff,
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. I love that. You push him, and he doesn't even know his own strength. And without you, obviously, he's definitely came a long way, being 9 years old, especially swimming. I don't even know how to swim, but we're not going to go there.
I know.
we're not going to go there.
That's okay. Okay. Well, I want you to learn how to swim, because listen, first of all, I'm from Florida. So in Florida, you just throw the kids in the water. You just throw them in, learn how to swim. My brother in at 6 months, learn how to swim, right? Because there's so much water and you worry about things happening. And so at our pool, actually here in our neighborhood, we have a neighborhood pool. There was a child who walked in without their floaties and coded. We had the fire department out, and I was like, oh, yeah, you're learning how to swim, buddy. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if you're an adult, we're still floaties with you. You're going to learn,
I mean,
I have to
sometimes
come to Tennessee to figure out. She's gonna throw me in the pool. So
I am. We're gonna go. Jenny Lee is coming, and we're gonna go 1.
I mean, I think we're gonna take turns because I can't swim for nothing. I float
Okay.
though. I do the doggy paddle. I keep
Okay,
swimming.
But you and my little guy can swim because he's still doing. He's swimming, but it's the doggy paddle. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm like, dude, you have arms. Use them. Reach for those apples, like they tell you. You know.
being as though that you're an advocate for 2 amazing companies, can you share your business, how we can find you, and how others can be connected with you in regards to their journey and you helping them possibly as well?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm at www.maryejackson.com, and on my website is like all my children's books. So I have ones for littles, and I have a middle grade reader that just came out, and these books are passion projects, but the ones for younger kids have I am statements in there to help you start that positive language with your child. The premise behind them is that no matter how you came into this world, you are perfectly made and you are okay. And mommy loves you no matter what. And the middle grade reader is an anti-bullying story, but it's a story of redemption. So it's about teaching kids how to be responsible for their actions, how to own them, how to learn to forgive others. There's tools in there for schools to use and classrooms and stuff. I have some adult books on my website. They're anthologies that are they're amazing books, and they're about journeys of overcoming. So you can get in there and read all these journeys of what people have been through, what they've overcome, to help empower you to know, okay, I can overcome this too, you know? I have some advocacy stuff on there. I have some free downloadables as well that are like writing prompts and social emotional writing prompts. And I think the one I put up lately was, I don't know if it's there, I got to go look, but it's like 7 tips for raising your sensory kid who's also, you know, a highly sensitive, intuitive, empathic child. Okay. They're all kind of, I see that they intertwine a lot. And then I have 2 shows. There a writer show that's for authors, and I mean it is authors, but it's all about the writing world. And you can find a new author and a book to love. And then the Special Needs TV, which is all about the special needs world. You know, it's got stuff featuring that. So that's where you can find me.
Oh, that's dope. You got a lot going on, but it's so much good stuff.
Thank you so much.
On your website.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, and so for you ladies, because Jenny, you guys might be interested in Billion-Strong, because they're a global for-profit that they make sure companies all over the world hire people with disabilities.
Amazing. I love that.
I love that too. Wow.
Great. They're a real powerhouse company. I mean, the woman who's in charge, Deborah Rue, she has Rue Global Impact, and her oldest is 33. She has Down syndrome, so that's how she became an advocate. But she's a butt kicker, man. She's a trailblazer.
I gotta check it out. Thank you so
much. Thank you for that.
Yeah. You guys can sign up to be supporters, I think, but you don't have to. You don't have to financially give to be one, but you could then know everything they have going on.
So. That's awesome.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that again, Mary. We have a question that we ask all our guest speakers. What makes you uncommon?
I saw that question and I thought, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that I decided to take this journey in the first place and said, yeah, I can do it. I don't know. Because I mean, we're sitting here talking about so much stuff. Who would sign up for all this? I mean, hey, I got nothing to do. Yeah, give me all these trials and challenges and 3 kids who need stuff. And, I don't know. I think, I don't know if it's uncommon, but I certainly have tried to, I love to help motivate and inspire others to see the best that's inside of them, to know they each have a story, to know what they can overcome, to be able to live their best life, to be able to tune into that voice that's inside them, what their spirit is wanting them to do. Because it's so important. We got to hear ourselves. We got to listen to ourselves, right? And so I don't know if that makes me uncommon, but I know that's something I'm passionate about, is seeing that in others and helping them embrace that, and embrace what empowers them. It's so easy for us to see things for other people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than it is for ourselves.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's just something that I it's really very close to my heart.
Oh, that's awesome. That you have a passion for that, though.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
do.
Mhm.
I do, because we're all more amazing than what we ever believed that we are. And that's not an ego thing. It's not an ego thing. We're blessed as humans to be on this planet, and we need to embrace that. Not what the world says about us. What do we say about ourselves? We have to make that decision, right? And not from an ego place, but from a genuine, honest love.
Mm-hmm. I like that, authentic.
Yeah, very.
I like that. I like that. Shanira, do we have any questions from the audience?
Just some comments, people showing love. Hi, Jawira. Thank you for tuning in. No, we don't have any questions. Go ahead.
Before I close, I want to say thank you for coming on, Mary. It's been an honor to hear your story. You are like the super mom that, taking care of 3 kids, and then, and they have special needs, and then like you're just phenomenal. You're writing your books, you're doing so much, but you're not just a mom, but you're also an inspiration to other moms out there with children that are special needs. And I hope someone took some jams with them this evening and just listened in, and just to know that, there is a tribe in the village, and there's so much resources for them out there, so that if they don't ever get to that point where they feel overwhelmed with having children with special needs, So thank you again for sharing your story, and to all of the audience out there, make sure you come check out our self-love apparel at www.uncommonwomen.net, as well as I am still currently looking for someone for next month, for the month of July. I'm still looking for someone for the awarenesses for cleft and craniofacial and sarcoma awareness. And if you or anyone knows anyone that wants to come on that is advocate or has a story, you can email me at uncommon3women@gmail.com. And as well, make sure you come on next Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. We have another guest speaker coming on, and a very incredible testimony. And before I close out, make sure you check out our YouTube channel at Uncommon 3 Women. Uncommon Women podcast. Sorry about that. Everyone, stay uncommon.